Hello, welcome to RK Medicoach. In this section, we are going to discuss about the biochemistry vitamin section and about vitamin D, everything about vitamin D, what we have to need to learn about it. So, introduction, synthesis of vitamin D, metabolism, function, deficiency, or the sources, toxicity, a laboratory assay, everything we discuss here. Let's start. Fat soluble vitamin, it is under the fat soluble vitamin, and we already discussed about the in introduction and in second section of vitamin about the vitamin D. It is also fat soluble. Next we can see here vitamin D is a group of sterols. It is a group of sterols, and it is also having somehow hormonal action. What does it mean? The vitamin D is acting like a hormone. Yeah, it is true. Vitamin D is having a sterol group of combination, and there is having two types, vitamin D2 and D3. Vitamin D2 is called as ergocalciferol and D3 is called as cholecalciferol. The ergocalciferol and cholecalciferol, these are the different substitutes, or we can say they are the different sub forms of the vitamin D, that is D2 and D3, ergo and chole. Next one, this is also called as sunshine vitamins because it is synthesizes in the presence of sunlight. That's why this vitamin is also called as sunshine vitamin. And we can say these vitamins are the food are the poor sources of these vitamins. It means there is somehow the food is fortified for the poor source of the vitamin D, and they are not going to synthesize in our body by the self mechanism. That just somehow something is required for the synthesis, and that's why they're the endogenously synthesized vitamin. And except the fish, in the fish they're the rich source of the vitamin D. The synthesis of vitamin D, we are going to see here how the vitamin D is going to synthesized. We can see there is a major source is the sunlight is going to fall on our skin, and inside our skin the something is present that is called as 7-dehydrocholesterol. This 7-dehydrocholesterol is present just below our skin, and if the sunlight of the radiation of the lambda wavelength 290 nanometer to 350 nanometer is falling on the surface of the skin, that is called as photoisomerization. I already told you in the vitamin A section inside the rhodopsin there is also photoisomerization is happening, and here same there is a photoisomerization is happened, and it leads to the conversion of 7-dehydrocholesterol into the cholecalciferol, and this cholecalciferol is also called as vitamin D3, and vitamin D2 is called as ergocalciferol. There is having one OH group or the one hydroxyl group is present inside the cholecalciferol, and that's why this is called as calciol. Ol means alcohol. Already told you about the diet. Some vitamins resources will be also obtained from the vitamin D from the diet, that is ergocalciferol, that is from the plant sources, and cholecalciferol from the fishes. Though from the fishes we obtain directly D3, and D2 is obtained from the plant sources, and after that this D2 is also converted into D3. There is no any mechanism to going to take in our from the body from the plant sources and directly use it. So we have to also convert this D2 into D3 and then utilize it in our body. So let's start in about the metabolism of the vitamin D, what happen inside our body and how the vitamin D is going to metabolize the catabolism and anabolism of the vitamin D. After we taking the plant sources or the from the fishes, there is a D2 or D3, it's entered in our blood circulation. Here is the blood vessel, we can see the blood vessels, and inside the blood vessels, after the absorption of vitamin D3 is entered in our blood circulation in the form of D3, that is called as cholecalciferol. Now you know cholecalciferol. This is entered in our circulation, and this cholecalciferol is going to bind a special type of protein, that is DBP. That is called as D binding. D binding means this is the vitamin D3 is going to bind with a protein, that is the D binding protein. After the D3, cholecalciferol is going to bind to the DBD. These two are going to bind, and they again reaching to the liver. They are going to liver through the blood circulation, through the hepatic artery, common hepatic artery, or the different arteries which are going to supply to the liver or the veins. Next we can see in the liver the reaching in the form of D3, and the acting one enzyme on this D3, that is cytochrome P450. It is the enzyme which is going to hydroxylize the D3 at the position number 25. On the 25th position of the D3 vitamin is going to hydroxylize, or the hydroxylation will be occurred by the hydroxylase enzyme, and now the vitamin is called as 25 hydroxyl, because on the 25th position of the D3 cholecalciferol hydroxylation we are going to done, and that is called as 25 hydroxycholecalciferol. The another name is also called as 25 OHD3. We can also call it as there is a diol, because I already told you about the D3, there is only one OH group is present, that's why they are called as calciol. And here now two OH group, because one OH group is present initially in the D3 format, and now in the liver there is a first hydroxylation is done. It means the one more OH group is now present inside it, and that's why they are called as calcidiol. It means the same name, calcidiol, means two hydroxyl group is present in it. And till now this vitamin D is not active. This vitamin is also inactive form, and we are going to activate this vitamin in the kidney. They reaches after the liver, they are again come into the blood circulation, and then again going to the liver, from the liver to the kidney, and this on the 25 position. After that, then the first position of the same D3 is having initially on the 25th position. On the 25th position hydroxylation is done, and after the somehow on the same D3 vitamin there is the on the first carbon there is a hydroxylation. It means the combinedly there is a 1 to 5 position, there is a hydroxylation is happening in the kidney. There is a first position, on the first position there is a hydroxylation is done in the kidney. Now this hydroxylation is called as 1 on the kidney, 2 5 on the liver, and the name is cholecalciferol. So what is the combination name? That is cholecalciferol 1 2 5, 1 from the kidney, L from the liver, and these are the two hydroxylation is done on the D3. And it means the two hydroxylation is done in the liver and kidney, and one is from the initial. They are combinedly called as calcitriol. Yeah, it's easy, calcitriol. After some time this calcitriol is the first active form. It is the active form of the vitamin D in our body. So this is the important here to know about it, how this vitamin D is going to metabolize in our body and how they are going to activate in our body. Next part we can see in the kidney, the parathyroid hormone is having role to convert this vitamin 25th position hydroxylation into the 1 to 5 hydroxylation. The parathyroid hormone is the rate limiting here. We can see the rate limiting parathyroid hormone is going to favors the hydroxylation. They are going to activate the alpha 1 hydroxylase enzyme in the kidney. In the kidney, alpha 1 hydroxylase enzyme is going to activated by the parathyroid hormone, and they are going to convert the 25 hydroxylase into the 1 to 5 hydroxylase. Hydroxylation will be done. After that they are activated, and they are the most potent biologically active vitamin D is here now, 1 to 5 dihydroxycholecalciferol. It's so easy to understand. Next one we can see, if the body is not require vitamin D, then what happen? If the body don't want to use this vitamin D, then what the body is going to do? In the liver, 25th position hydroxylation is done, and the first position hydroxylation is done in the kidney. After that, if there is any hydroxylation is done at the 24th part of this vitamin, 24th carbon of this vitamin, so after that they are going to inactivate. Now you imagine in the liver, I already told you, in the 25th position there is hydroxylation is happen. It means the two hydroxyl group, it means their name is calcidiol, and now there is also done on the 24th position. We are going to do one more hydroxylation. Now their name is calcidiol, but there is hydroxylation is done at the 24th position, not on the which position? Not on the 25th first position. That's why their name is diol, and they are inactive protein. Now once again we can see there is a 2 is already done, and their name is calcitriol now. Now you know in the kidney there's a calcitriol, and we are going to inactivate the calcitriol. So we are going to do again hydroxylation. It means there is a calcitetrol somehow. Understand? I think calcitetrol, because once again hydroxylation is done in the after the blood circulation is exiting out from the kidney, and through which the vitamin D is exit out through the kidney, and they are the activated or either inactivated. If they are activated, it means they are the calcitriol, and if they are deactivated or inactivated, then they are the calcitetrol. Next we can see the function of vitamin D. We can also see here about the calciol, about the calcidiol, about the calcitriol and calcitetrol. Calciol is calciferol, cholecalciferol. Calcidiol is 25 hydroxycholecalciferol. Calcitriol is 1,2,5 dihydroxycholecalciferol. And if we are doing the 25th carbon hydroxylation, then they are called as calcitetrol, and they are the inactive form. And which one is active form? Calcitetrol. Next function is regulation of calcium level and phosphate level in our body. There is a immunomodulatory role in our body. They are going to somehow changing our immune system. Next one is anti-proliferative mechanism is doing. If any patient is having cancer or the different types of proliferation mechanism is abnormal happen in the body, so they are going to control them. Next one is bone development. Bone development is also controlled by them. There is a bone mineralization. Bone growth is promoted by this vitamin D. Now we are going to see the function of the vitamin D one by one. That is the regulation, how the immunomodulatory, how the anti-proliferative or the bone development. First, the regulation of calcium and phosphate. How they are going to regulate the calcium and phosphate level in our body. The three vitamins, we can say the three hormones basically is regulating. The vitamin D is also a hormone. Already told you in the first line of our topic, that is vitamin D is acting like hormone. That is parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. These are the three hormones which are going to perform their action and regulating the calcium level in our body. They are regulating the calcium level in our body at the three sides. First, I am going to tell you about the regulation of calcium is done by the vitamin D, and somehow also by the two hormones parathyroid and calcitonin. They are also regulating the calcium level in our body. How they are going to regulate calcium level? At the three places they are acting and performing their action and regulating the calcium level: at the intestine, in the kidney, and in the bone. In these three sites, these all hormones are acting and controlling the level of calcium. First one, 1,2,5 hydroxy calciferol. Next one is parathyroid. Next one is calcitonin. These are the three hormones. How they are regulating? If the patient is having active vitamin D, 1,2,5 dihydroxycholecalciferol is having, increases the serum calcium and phosphate, both will be increased. Parathyroid hormone is regulating. They just increase the calcium, but they are going to decrease the phosphate. Calcitonin will be regulating only calcium level, and they are going to decrease. It means these three hormones, that is vitamin D, parathyroid or calcitonin, are regulating the different way. Either the calcium will be increased and the phosphate will be increased. In the case of the active vitamin, in the parathyroid hormone is going to regulate the calcium level, and they are increasing the calcium but decreasing the phosphate. But in the case of calcitonin, they are decreasing the calcium too. And these all the vitamins are going to activate a special type of receptor we are going to see in the intestinal region. In the intestine, there is an active form of vitamin D is absorbed, we can say, sorry, in the intestinal region, and there is a favor by the somehow parathyroid hormone. How they are going to perform their action we will see in 1 minute. Before it, we are going to see this activated vitamin D is going to stimulate somehow in the two ways. Their stimulation will be leads to forming the two different types of protein, or the two different types of channel proteins. One is the TRPV6 and one is the calbindin 9K. These two channel proteins or the transporting proteins are synthesized by the activated calcium in our intestine. TRPV6 is the another name. We can see transient receptor potential valenoid family. These are the tunnel-like proteins which are synthesized somewhere to perform the absorption of the action of vitamin D. Somewhere not. Basically, we are calling in the intestine. These receptors are synthesized and leads to the absorption of these vitamins. So next we can see calbindin 9 or TRPV6. They are the two vitamins are synthesized in higher amount, so the absorption of vitamin higher is regulating by these vitamins. So parathyroid hormones is favoring the alpha 1. We can say there is a basically first hydroxylation and they are going to perform the activation of vitamin A. Now you know the parathyroid hormone is favoring the alpha 1 hydroxylation in the vitamin D, and alpha 1 hydroxylation is leads to the activation of vitamin D, and after the activation of vitamin D they are going to perform the acting and they synthesizes the TRPV6 and calbindin 9K proteins and they leads to the absorption of vitamin D, calcium from the intestine. In the intestine there's a calcium and vitamin K or sorry vitamin D absorption will be happen. They are favored by the parathyroid hormone because parathyroid hormone is causing the hydroxylation at the first carbon. Next we can see in the kidney, in the distal tubule part, suppose that this is the, we can see here nephron and this part is basically called as DCT. In the DCT section, this hormone, that is the active vitamin D, that is the active vitamin D is increasing the two different types of again protein. Here we are going to synthesize two more proteins. We can see one is called as TRPV5 and another one is called as calbindin. Another one is called as calbindin 28K. Now you know calbindin 28K and TRPV5 is synthesized in the distal part of the kidney. And again, here there is also absorption of this absorption of this vitamin D. Or sorry, the absorption of calcium and phosphate will be regulated. Sorry, the absorption of calcium and phosphate will be regulated by these vitamins in the distal tubules of the nephron of the kidney. So we can see here the calcium absorbed in that area, the phosphate reabsorbed in that area by the vitamin D. So now you know how the vitamin D is alter the absorption or the reabsorption of the calcium and phosphate. They are making more and more tunnel. They are making more and more reabsorption carrier. They are making more and more reabsorption proteins for the reabsorption of them. And that's why the calcium level, that's why the phosphate level in the serum will be raised. Next, in the parathyroid hormone, what they are doing in the kidney, there is a calcium and phosphate level. Now you know the parathyroid hormone is increasing the calcium level. That means it is going to reabsorb the calcium, but the phosphate will be going to excreted out because the parathyroid hormone role will be the excreting the phosphate. They are decreasing the phosphate level in the body. Hence, they increasing the serum calcium and decreasing the serum phosphate. It means phosphaturic acid. It means in our urine, the phosphate level will be increased if the parathyroid hormone action will be increased. Next, we can see what happened in the bones. Osteoblast has rank ligand. The osteoblast cells, the blast means forming and osteo means bone, the bone forming cells. These cells is having rank ligand receptors are present. We can see here osteoblast cells, there is having a rank ligand. We can see here is the osteoblast cells and here is the rank ligand. We can see here rank ligand, and on the pro-osteoclast cells, which are before they are going to maturation, there is a pro-osteoclast cells. There is a receptor ligands are present. The rank ligand, receptor for the rank ligands are present. So the receptors for the rank ligands are present on the pro-osteoclast cells, but the receptor ligand are present on the osteoclast cells or osteoblast cells. Osteoblast, of course, osteoblast. Now you can see here is the parathyroid and vitamin D is favoring the rank ligand to going to bind, and pro osteoclast cells having the receptor for the ligand, they are going to convert into the mature osteoclast cells later on, and they are performing the action in the bone reabsorption, or we can see bone resorption, sorry, and they increase the serum calcium level in the blood. And what the calcitonin is doing, they are going to decrease the calcium. They are going to decrease the calcium in the body. You know about it. Next, immunomodulatory functions of the vitamin D. What is the immunomodulatory function? Suppose that this is the cholecalciferol. This cholecalciferol is converted and they are going to activate it. Suppose that this whole cell, what is drawing here, this whole cell is the macrophage. And you know the macrophage is the scavenger cell of the body. They are going to take the pathogens and then kill them. So on the macrophages, there is a one special type of receptors are present that is called as toll-like receptor. That is called as toll-like receptor. Through these receptors, there is any pathogen is going to enter inside the macrophages, and this macrophages is going to activate an enzyme that is cytochrome P27B. Cytochrome P27B is going to activated by the hydroxylation. If the toll receptors will be going to activate, this cytochrome P27B is going to activate it and they converting, and this cytochrome P450 will be activated by the vitamin D, and after the activation of vitamin D will be leads to the increase in production of a special type of cathelicidin. We can see cathelicidin will be activated, and this cathelicidin will be going to kill the pathogens. Any pathogen, kill the basically Mycobacterium tuberculosis pathogen if the Mycobacterium tuberculosis will be entered inside the macrophages. So this is the immunomodulatory function of these vitamins. Hope you understand now. Next section we can see here. Vitamin D can prevent the Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection. Yes, now you know. Yes, it can prevent because of the immunomodulatory function, and it is having also antibacterial action of the vitamin D. You know how. What is the anti-proliferative function of the vitamin D? Anti-proliferative. They are going to somehow prevent the proliferation of the different region of the body. Somehow there is a cancer cells are the abnormal division of cells. Somehow abnormally the cell is going to divide in our body, and that abnormal division, they're losing his similarness and dissimilarness inside the different comparison of the cells, and that's why they are called as the cancer cell. And these cancer cells are going to anti means basically they are opposite, they are going to restrict their division, and that is vitamin D. They are doing very well. So we can see the ideal level of the vitamin D in our body will be the 20 to 100 nanogram per ml, and this vitamin D level will be, if the less than 20 nanogram per ml is associated with increase the incidence of, it means if the level of vitamin D will be less than 20 nanogram per ml will be leads to the somehow increase in the incidences of some diseases like the colorectal cancer, like the breast cancer, like the prostate cancer, or the colon cancer or the colorectal cancer. These are the chances will be more if there is a deficiency of vitamin D will be lower than 20 nanogram per ml. Next, the vitamin D is a protective against what? What is the vitamin D is going to protective against the pre-diabetic cases or the metabolic syndromes? In these two cases, the vitamin D is acting as a protective. Next, bone development and vitamin D action will be the bone development. During the bone development, they increasing what the vitamin D is doing, and they promoting the bone development activity in our body, the tissue differentiation activity in our body. There's osteoblastic activation is promoting osteoblast. Blast means formation, osteo means bone, so the bone forming activity will be increased. Next one, increase the mineralization of the bone. Now you know mineralization, it means suppose that this is the bone, the minerals going to stick to this bone, so the bone becomes more stronger. So the mineralization of the bone is done. Next one is increase in osteocalcin. And increase the osteocalcin. This osteocalcin is the protein which is going to help the, which is going to promote the mineralization of the bone. So once again they are going to perform the bone development. Next we can see the deficiency of vitamin D. Deficiency of vitamin D will be leads to a special disease. That one is called as rickets. It's very important. The vitamin D deficiency will be leads to rickets. If the mineralization of the any bony part will be decreased, what does it mean? The minerals will be going to remove from the bone. There is a mineralization. demineralization of the bone, it means there is somehow the bone minerals will be going to decrease, and there are two types. If the closure of epiphysis and after the closure or before the closure, what does it mean epiphysis? Suppose that this is the bone, you know very well, these are the diaphysis region, the shaft of the bone, diaphysis. This one is epiphysis, and here is the metaphysic plate. So they are the metaphysis. Metaphysis. So this metaphysis, epiphysis, and diaphysis are the three parts of the bone. Same here. These are the metaphysis, and these are the epiphysis, and here is the diaphysis. So before the closure of the epiphysis, if there is any demineralization will happen, will leads to the rickets. If the any person is having, there is the closure of epiphysis. After the closure of epiphysis, something is happen in the patient due to the demineralization, that is called as osteomalacia. It means the softening of bone, and you know the softening of bone will be leads to the increasing the chances of some disease, that is called as craniotabs and Harrison's groove. Craniotabs means it is the softening of bones in our body, that is the term representing the craniotabs, and the Harrison's groove is the softening of ribs. If the ribs of the any person is going to soften, and then chances of fracture will be increases of the ribs, that sign is called as the Harrison's groove sign. Next, in the rickets, if the before the closure of the epiphysis in the children's, the rickets will be absorbed, and that is leads to the skeletal deformities, the bone size will be the different, the wind swap deformities, the rachitic rosary, the nodules forming on the bone, in the mainly in the costochondral junction. There is a costochondral junction is there in the ribs, and in the cartilages of the ribs they are going to attach, and they're forming the nodules like a structure. That's why they're called as rachitic rosary. They appear in the rosary. Next, the nutritional rickets will appear due to the deficiency of the vitamin D. That's why there is a deficiency of some nutrients in our body. Basically, is the decrease in sunlight deficiency. Exposure of sunlight will be deficient. It leads to the decrease in active vitamin D. It leads to the decrease in calcium because the serum calcium will be decreased. It leads to a disease that is secondary hyperparathyroidism. It means the leads to increase the parathyroid hormone will be higher in amount. If the parathyroid hormone will be increased, it leads to the more activation of alpha 1 hydroxylation. You know now, more activation of alpha 1 hydroxylation leads to more vitamin D will be activated, and it will be normalize the condition, and that will be how the calcium serum level will be normal in our body. If the parathyroid hormone will be increased, they are also promoting the excretion of phosphate, so the serum phosphate will be going to down. This is the main role. Next, we can see the resources or the sources of the vitamin D and the RDA of the vitamin D. In the children, we are going to give the 10 microgram or the 400, we can say milligram, 400 international unit, or in the adults 5 milligram per day, or the 200 units international unit, and the 10 milligram or the 400 international unit. These are the daily requirement units of the daily requirement allowance to the any person, the child, adult, or the pregnant lady. Next, we can see the toxicity. The toxicity assay in the case, we can see if the more than 400 international unit will be given. This is the upper limit of the vitamin D. If the more than it, then it will be toxicity will be produces in our body. So the infants will be daily dose is more than 50 milligram per day will be supplied to the child, is having toxicity will be appeared. Next, we can see the deposition of calcium in the soft tissues and the blood vessels. If the calcium will be deposited in our different parts of the soft tissues and inside the blood vessels, it will be leads to metastatic calcification, and the term is called as calcinosis. So there is a calcium deposition in the blood vessels in the soft tissues will be leads to the development of calcinosis, and this leads to the contraction of blood vessels will be performed. Contraction of blood vessels will be affected in this case, and the person is developing hypertension. Now you know the elasticity will be lost due to calcinosis. The calcium will be deposited in the vessels, and that's why the patient is having HTN, that is hypertension. Hypertension we can see. The assays of vitamin D we can say there is a 25 cholecalciferol. If the limit will be, the ideal level will be 20 to 100 nanogram ml we can see, and the serum will be osteocalcin level will be higher than their diagnostic feature of it. Next we can see the sources will be the sunlight, or we can see there is a feces will be the main source, and the richest source we can see the halibut liver oil. All I told you, the richest source will be the halibut liver oil. It is the richest source of the vitamin D. So this is all about the vitamin D. In previous section we discussed about the vitamin A. In next section we discuss about the E and K. And so thanks for now. Connect with us and learn about the vitamins or the different subjects. Everything will be uploaded on the YouTube. So see you in next video guys. Thank you.